Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. And this time I am reviewing the first film I've seen from this year. Oh, it's almost March and I haven't seen a movie from this year yet. And that is The Beekeeper. This is a 2024 action thriller film directed by David Ayer, and it stars Jason Statham, Emmy Raver Lampman, uh, Josh Hutcherson, Jeremy Irons, Minnie Driver, and Felicia Rashad. In this film, one man's campaign for vengeance takes on national stakes after he is revealed to be a former operative of a powerful and clandestine organization known as Beekeepers. So, what did I think of The Beekeeper? Well, I've been looking forward to this one for a bit because the last David Ayer film I saw was End of Watch, which is currently my favorite of his. Um, I need to see more of his stuff. I still haven't seen Fury, still haven't seen the original Suicide Squad. Haven't seen Training Day, even though I'm pretty sure he only wrote that. But Hard Times I think he directed. But with this one I can say I enjoyed it, but I wish I enjoyed it more. Um there's certain things about how this film is done and how certain things pan out that didn't exactly fully hook me or something. But I'll get to that. Let me talk about the cast. Jason Statham plays Adam Clay. He is a beekeeper, basically an assassin, um, a former beekeeper. But Jason Statham is perfect in these types of roles. He's a perfect tough guy. He has a bit of emotion as well that doesn't get in the way of this being a fun action movie. And yeah, his fights are a lot of fun. Emmy Raver Lampman plays Agent Verona Parker. She is the daughter of Felicia Rashad's character. The last thing I saw her in was Blacklight with Liam Neeson. She was fine there because I think she fit as like this kind of perky reporter girl. Here she's playing an FBI agent and I don't buy her. I'm sorry. I find her really annoying in this role because she's one of those like, oh, is she in support of the main character? Is she not? It's something you've seen a million times, nothing new there. And constantly she's trying to sound badass, and has these really bad lines where it's like, oh, you want me to just discount the big white dude in our house? And I'm like, "Eh, what? You wouldn't treat it any different if it was a big black dude? Like, it's little tiny things like that that I'm like, okay, somebody slipped it in because they wanted to say, "Oh, fuck white people," whatever. Like, can we just have a movie, please? A normal movie. But yeah, like for the most part, I hated her. Okay, I didn't hate her, but she gets really annoying, and a lot of her dialogue is just really either very cliche or like some writer was like, "Oh yeah, we've got to make this a message." Um, Josh Hutcherson plays Derek Danforth. He basically owns all of this company that's doing all this scamming stuff. Last thing I saw him in was the FNAF movie. And again, I'm kind of changing on my opinion of him in the FNAF movie because I thought originally that he didn't do too bad, but then I realized he did the exact same performance here where he's just basically not emoting that much, and he's supposed to be this like spoiled brat character, and I'm sorry, I hate that type of villain in a movie. This reminded me of John Wick Chapter 2 and 2, 3, and 4's villains, to be honest. Um like he's not as annoying as the ones from the third and fourth, but he's about as unneeded as the one from the second. Because the one from John Wick Chapter 2, I was like, okay, this guy doesn't need to be here. You could have just had it be some random person in power, but then it's just this random dude that's like, oh, we've never seen him before, but he has this connection to John or whatever. But yeah, pretty poor villain here. Jeremy Irons plays Wallace Westwild. He's basically there to protect Josh Hutcherson's character. I wish he was the main villain. I would have liked that a lot more because Jeremy Irons can play a villain, but he really doesn't get anything villainous to do in this. Uh, Minnie Driver plays director Janet Hayworth. She's a CIA director. She's in it for two scenes. Um, Technically three, but one of them is in two of them are in one small location. So I'm like, okay, they just filmed this within like an hour or something. Um, but yeah, she's fine. And Felicia Rashad as Eloise Parker, the mother of Veronica. I like Felicia Rashad. I wish she was in the film more, but it makes sense given what happens to her character. Um, this film is about scamming, like phishing scams online where they can take your money, can steal your identity, all that type of shit. And that's part of why I was so interested in this. Also, there were a couple names involved with this that I was curious about because I saw David Ayer, who's a director. He did Suicide Squad, Fury, Bright, Street King, Sabotage, Tax Collector. Okay, he did direct Harsh Times. And End of Watch was a legitimately fantastic film that I saw semi recently. And I was like, okay, I'd like to check out more of this guy's stuff because the other thing I saw from him was Sabotage, which is an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that apparently had a lot of meddling, like studio meddling. The production company or whatever re edited a 3 hour long mystery thriller film into an hour and 49-minute long action film. And I feel like a lot was lost in that. The biggest thing I can say about it is that Arnold Schwarzenegger does a fantastic he okay, maybe not fantastic, but he does a great job acting. He does get a pretty dramatic role. There are moments in Sabotage that I'm like, okay, this is fun. Like the ending chase where it's like the woman in the back of the truck shooting at them. I thought that was a fun action scene. I wish the editing wasn't as sporadic, but that's kind of David Ayer's thing, and I wish he'd chill out with that. But other than that, the only thing I've seen from him is Beekeeper and End of Watch. I still want to check out more of his movies, and apparently he's set to do a remake of The Dirty Dozen, uh, which is interesting. But yeah, another reason I checked this out or wanted to check this out was because it was written by Kurt Wimmer. Now, Kurt Wimmer directed, um, wrote and directed one of my favorite films of all time, which is Equilibrium, with Christian Bale, Taye Diggs, um, Angus McFadden, I think. Yeah, Angus McFadden, um, Sean Bean, Emily Watson, Sean Pertwee, like tons of recognizable names. And One Man's Justice, which not an amazing film, but I still thought it was a fun action film, action revenge film. Um, and I do think Kurt Wimmer is a talented writer. He wrote Salt. He wrote Law Abiding Citizen, which again is another movie marred by production issues. Um, wrote Thomas Crown Affair, which I still haven't seen. Wrote The Misfits, which The Misfits was Salt, which I think is an awesome movie. Um, but yeah, there's plenty of people here that I was like, okay, I'm really looking forward to this. Did it did it match my expectations? Not exactly, but I don't think this is a bad film. And one thing I want to get off the top of my off right now is this is not a John Wick ripoff. I I am tired of having to say this. Um, all of these critics saying that a movie is a ripoff of John Wick just because there is uh an assassin getting revenge and some type of animal involved and fight scenes, which again, shit you get in action movies. You get fight scenes, you get shooting scenes, you get action. Um, shut up, because this isn't a John Wick ripoff. This has literally nothing to do with John Wick. It is set in a semi-realistic real world. Yes, the action scenes are pretty, extravagant, but this isn't some like secret society of assassins. It's not it's not a it's not set in like a fictional world. It's set in a real world where actual scamming happens. And to compare and to just say, oh, it's a ripoff of John Wick and it came out in January, that means every movie that comes out in January is shit. Is it true that production companies send out movies in January that they think aren't going to make a lot of money? Yes, that is true. That does not mean you should devalue every single movie that comes out in January. That is a really small-minded approach to all of this because any movie that comes out in any month can be good. That is a really stupid thing to say. And that's what a lot of the reviews on Letterboxd are saying. But yeah, like this is not a John Wick ripoff. It is an action movie. Shut up. Um, but the thing with this movie, it's about scammers and this basically the only friend this guy's ever had in his life ends up killing herself because she loses all of her money to a phishing scam. And basically he finds out through his connections who these people are and he basically starts torching down their places and or burning them down. And if there's one thing I can say this film needed more of, it might have needed a bit more story, maybe a bit more setup, because this movie isn't that long. It's an hour and 45 minutes, which for what this plot is, I think a little bit extra time with Clay and Felicia Rashad's character would have set things up a bit more, and it would have felt a bit more. It would have been. It would have hit a bit harder, and maybe build up a bit more with his character because I don't know a ton about his character. It's just, oh, he's a beekeeper, he's a former assassin, he's called in to get things done. That's about all I know about his character. Like, if they set up a bit more character with both of them, I think it would have helped this film tremendously. Um, because within the first 15 minutes of the film, um, this isn't really a spoiler because they allude to it in the beginning, and Felicia Rashad's name is near the end of the credits. She has killed herself because she lost all of her money. And it was a lot of money. There was like 2 million that was for a charity that she ran and a lot of other stuff like retirements and death benefits, all that stuff. And this all happens within before the 15-minute mark. And I think that if it had happened just a little bit later, like 5 extra minutes of like character backstory build up to all of this, it would have hit a bit harder because it didn't really feel anything. And Felicia Rashad tries her best to act this, but I don't think the emotion really comes through because I don't know enough about the character. There is such a thing as rushing a revenge movie too fast. Other than that, you have the issue of what I think are the two worst performances in the film. Emmy Raver Lampman from Umbrella Academy, from Blacklight, from excuse me. Um, Apparently she was in Dog, untitled horror movie. Yeah, as the FBI agent. Um, I don't know. She just doesn't fit the role for me. I don't find her that. I don't find her threatening. I don't find her uh badass. I don't think she works as that. If they didn't constantly try to insist that she's a badass, I wouldn't have had nearly an issue as much of an issue with her character. But every time she tries to yell or tries to raise her voice, it sounds really unconvincing. And I know that's a voice thing, like she just doesn't have the voice for it, or the look. She keeps trying to dress like a tough girl, but then she has these like super high waist jeans, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not fooling me. You just look like a model they put in this movie, and like it did kind of take me out of it whenever she came up. Um, and also Josh Hutcherson as a villain. Josh Hutcherson, I've never been huge on as an actor. I don't think he's that great of an actor. Yet he's been in constant movies, mostly movies from when he was a kid. But still, I think he's one of those child actors that just didn't ever get to the point where he's a really good actor as an adult. But even then, um, otherwise, um, this film, I guess part of its problem is that it's nothing you really haven't seen before. I was kind of hoping for a bit more of an interesting action film with the premise, which I hadn't really seen another movie do this type of premise. Um, Not revenge, but like with scamming being the reason for the revenge being needed. I thought that was like I guess you could kind of say it's similar to The Net, where this woman gets her identity stolen while she's in another country, um, and that type of thing. I I guess I can say it's kind of similar to that, but that wasn't really a revenge movie. It was more just stolen identity movie. Um, but with this, it's really hard to say what the issue is with me. Because again, I think it's a good action film. If you're going into it for violent, well choreographed action, there you go, you'll get it. One of the issues definitely is the editing. David Ayer does have usually pretty shaky cam. He's a little bit on the shaky cam side and a little bit on the supercut editing. It's never as bad as Taken 2 or 3. I'll say that right off the bat. I can tell what's happening. I just wish that he, even if he just stopped with the shaking the camera a little bit during the scenes, it would help tremendously. Because it's clear there's actual fight choreography going on here, and it's not like the Bourne films where they clearly it feels like in the Bourne films that they don't have a fight choreographer and they're just waving their hands, hoping that you don't notice or go frame by frame in an editing software and show that there's no choreography going on. Here there's clearly actual fight choreography going on, as in they put effort into it, guys. Hey, Paul Greengrass, how about put effort into your action scenes? That would be nice. Um, but yeah, just a little bit less shaky cam and chill the editing out a bit because there's a fight scene near the end with another guy who they insinuate he's killed a beekeeper before and he lost his leg. And that fight scene's the best fight in the movie because it's very violent. You can tell exactly what's happening. Like you can see when every mark hits. Um and it's very bloody and violent, exactly what you want in this type of movie, and I wish more of the fights were shot in that way. But yeah, um, guess there's not exactly a ton I can say about this movie. The music is good. I like the score. Um, but yeah, other than like a pretty poor villain, like underdeveloped and kind of rushed villain, and other actor Emmy Raver Lampman, me not being huge on her. Uh, Not a ton else I can say. But yeah. I still recommend it. Just go in knowing that Josh Hutcherson is your main villain and don't be fooled into thinking Jeremy Irons is. But yeah. Um that was my review of The Beekeeper. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put those down there as well. And movie reviewer next door.